Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. This is More Sporting. I'm Pat Moore. I appreciate you guys stopping by. And today we're going to talk about 5 habits that you can develop that will help you become a much better fisherman. So I know that the first question you're thinking is, well, what is the expertise that you're providing that I should spend my time watching this video? Well, I guarantee you that this will help you, but let me give you a rough idea of why I think that that's true. About 5 years ago, I hadn't caught a single smallmouth in Lake Sammamish, and the first one that I caught was a 15-incher, and I thought that was huge. It's not a big fish, but I thought it was at the time. And I spent most of the rest of the year trying to catch smallmouth, and I didn't do it. I think I caught 1 or 2 other fish. So I really struggled, and I was under the impression that maybe smallmouths are just really rare in Lake Sammamish, which is also not true at all. And after talking with a few fellow anglers, I realized that there are a ton of smallmouth in that lake, and I just had no idea what it was, where I should be looking for them or how I should be catching them. And I knew that I had to really up my game in order to be able to do that. So let's fast forward to this last year, and every fish that I caught was in my top 10 was 19 inches or better. And that's a pretty good sized fish in most people's book. And I finished in the top 10 of the year-end tournament, a year-long tournament. So that means that all the people who signed up for that tournament were recording all of their fish. And their top 10 biggest fish went into the tournament. And I finished just outside the top 10 of that tournament. So of all the people in Washington State and Idaho and Oregon that signed up for that tournament, I was in the just outside the top 10. So I've made some huge improvements, and using these habits, I guarantee you that it will help you guys improve your fishing game as well. Okay, let's talk about these 5 habits I think you should incorporate into your fishing routine. The first and most important one is that you should start a log. I've been keeping a log now for about 3 years, outside of my YouTube videos, that I write down every data point I can think of every time I go out. So the depth of the water that I'm fishing, the water temps, the air temps, the wind velocity, wind direction, what area of the lake I fished successfully and unsuccessfully. I document everything, and then I write it in a little story to make it somewhat interesting when I have to go back and read it, and I post that to a document. Now I'm sure there's some online tools that allow you to do this. Many of them probably incorporate some sort of sharing activity, which I'm not interested in. And I want it free. So a Google Doc works perfectly fine. And if I were to start it over again, I probably would start it out in Google Sheets so that I could separate air temp, wind direction, every one of those data points. I could separate it into a sortable, searchable format. It's just nice to have the data points separated. So do that. Create a log and keep track of everything that happens every time you go out. Don't be lazy. When you get home, enter your trip into the log. It will help you out immensely as your fishing career takes off. And it will help you throughout the rest of your life to go back and look at those data points and identify what you did. And it also gives you a nice warm feeling to notice how much you've improved, because you'll see it. You'll see it in your logs on how much you've improved. Okay, now, well, I've alluded to this, but let's make it clear. If you're going to go fishing on a particular day in June, let's say, and you know what the weather's going to be like, you have a rough idea what the air temps are going to be, you can go back and review all of the times that you may have gone fishing in the month of June and had similar air temperatures and conditions, and review what you did on those trips. And it'll really help you identify the best way to approach the fishing trip you're about to embark on. So it really is a heck of a tool. It's really, really helpful. And it helps reinforce all those lessons that you've learned, because you go back and you read them regularly, and you can reinforce that learning and help you remember specific things that you at the time recognized were really important. 3 years later, you're not going to remember them. But but it's in your log, you go back and you read it, it reinforces that lesson, and it will make you recognize those conditions a lot quicker and faster when you're out on the water. So number one, you got to have a log. That's absolutely critical that you do that. And yeah, I know it's a little bit of work. Don't be lazy. Go do it. Okay. The second thing that you should do is you should join a tournament trail. And the reason why I say that is it's difficult for you to recognize when you have any kind of improvement in your skill set unless you're actually measuring it. So being part of a tournament trail forces you to actually measure your performance. And in this case, in bass fishing, you're actually measuring the fish. So I could go back and look and see, well, last year I didn't even catch 5 largemouth. This year I caught 8 or 10, and they were all in that 19-inch range. Those are the ones that I ended up recording. So pretty cool stuff to say, oh, yeah, 2 years ago or a year ago, I couldn't catch a largemouth. This year, not only did I catch the largemouth, but I caught big ones. So I was able to see through the numerical recordings how much have I improved. And not only that, it's always important to really gauge yourself against your previous performances, but it also is a good thing to be able to measure yourself against other people that are fishing similar waters, right? So I can go through and, like I said in the intro here, the other fishermen out there that caught fish that got them into the top 10, I can look at them and say, like, oh, the guy that's got first and second, all of his or her fish were in that 21 plus range. So they were all over 21 inches. So that's impressive. So it allows me to say, hey, if you want to be the best you can be, here's somebody who's doing it and they're catching them in the 21-inch range. So if that's what you want to be, if you want to catch the biggest fish that you can catch, you got to measure yourself against somebody who's actually doing it. And so the only way that you're going to be able to do that effectively is to join a tournament trail, and that will help focus you on understanding where you are as far as what's the best that you could be. And that's the only way you're going to do that, is to be able to measure the fish. Okay, number 3 is consuming media. And that's in articles, in videos, talking to fellow anglers, paying attention to the weigh-ins at fishing tournaments. Every little tidbit helps. Talking to other fishermen out on the water, all that helps. It helps you identify what's going on that allowed other people to be successful, and allows you to leverage that information and help you be successful on your next trip. You're already doing that because you're watching this video. But it's absolutely critical that you do that. And if you find a little nugget that you recognize is something that's super critical that you think is really going to help you in your fishing, put it in your log, right? Go back and put it in your log. I watched a video where one of the tournament fishermen that I follow really closely had a discussion with one of the podcasters, and he gave away some juice about how he was catching fish. And he was catching them the way that I like to catch them, and where I like to catch them. And the thing that he said he was doing, I said, ooh, that looks really important. When that video was over, I went right to my log and I entered it in and said, during this time, this person at this tournament did this thing, and it really helped him catch fish. You should look into that and try it. So having that ability to go through and watch the video and identify things that could help you, it also helps you if you use the first tool, which is your log, to help reinforce that as you move forward throughout your fishing career. You can always go back and reference that thing and say, yeah, that was right, or no, that was wrong. But that log will always be the place where you keep going back to find out information that's going to help you in your fishing career. Okay. Number 4. Number 4 is developing a confidence bait. And this was introduced to me by our tournament director, Jim. And thank you, Jim. I appreciate you. It was very helpful. Now, for me, the confidence bait was a wacky worm. At the point where I started this year, I said, you know what, I'm really going to dedicate a lot of time to fishing the wacky worm because so many people have said, hey, this is a bait that catches a lot of fish. And I thought, okay, well, if so many people think that, I got to learn how to catch fish on it. And I started fishing that almost exclusively for the first month and a half of my my outings this year. And I caught a lot of fish and a lot of big fish. I caught fish that were in that 18 to 20 inch range pretty consistently using the wacky worm. And then from there, once I've developed that, I have that confidence bait in my back pocket. Now I can go out and look at some other baits that I think might be helpful. And you'll see in the media and on YouTube, a lot of people really talk up a jig. They really talk about how successful you can be as a jig fisherman. And I actually watched a podcast where that's all the only thing this guy uses. It's the only thing in his tackle box is a jig. And he explained how he set his jigs up. And he said, I don't really care about the color. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to catch fish this way. And so that's all he uses. And so that was another bait that I spent quite a bit of time fishing with. And I caught quite a few fish on that, some of which are in my top 10. So I've become proficient with the jig as well. And the only other fishing lure that I caught fish in my top 10 with was a deep diving crankbait. And that was a very specific thing that I did in order to catch fish with a deep diving crankbait. Go back and watch my Lake Lunkers tournament video. You'll see how I utilize that lure. So those are the three that I currently consider to be in my confidence arena. And I think that moving forward, those are the ones I will probably focus with. But I know that I'm going to add some expertise with other lures as I become proficient with those three things. So that's what you want to do. Develop a confidence lure. Once you have that in your back pocket, you feel comfortable, you can catch fish on a regular basis with that confidence lure, then you can systematically add additional techniques and lures to your repertoire, and it'll really help you with your ability to catch fish because you're going to have confidence in them and you're going to fish them harder and more consistently. Number 5 is find the fish. When I first started out, my assumption was, hey, I'm floating in the water. There's going to be fish here. But I spent a lot of time fishing in areas of the lake and having fish in them. And it's why I thought that smallmouths were rare in Sammamish, because I was fishing in places where they weren't. And I found in my logs where I had gone out in early May, and I had said that I thought the fish were spawning, but that I didn't catch any. Well, after this year, having spent a lot of time sight fishing on spawning beds, it baffles me how I couldn't have caught any fish when the fish were spawning, because that's the easiest time to catch fish. So, like I said, when you have your log, you can go back and look at it and identify things where you improve. So you really do need to understand how you find the fish. And in most cases, it's just covering water. But having your log, being able to go back and reference your log and identify where you found them in the past with those conditions, of course, will help you find them. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, what you're going to find out is you don't. Fish are fickle little rascals. You're going to find out that they will move to other locations where they're not being harassed if they're pressured, or the bait fish may be in a different place, or the water temps may be slightly different, or currents may have changed. Lots of things can affect it. So generally speaking, be prepared to be humbled and be prepared to cover a lot of water until you find the fish. But if you're fishing your confidence techniques and you're not catching fish, then you need to identify really early on, hey, this is not productive water. I need to go find the fish. And that's probably the most important thing you can do when you're going out on your fishing trips, is to recognize, I'm not in productive water, I got to go find the fish. That is the one thing that will get you to catching more fish is, first of all, you have to be in a location where the fish are. All right, let's do a synopsis of these 5 things. We have the log, which is important for you to understand things that worked and didn't work in the past and allow you to apply those lessons into the future. Joining a tournament trail will allow you to measure your successes against your previous successes and against your fellow anglers. Consuming media will help you identify new techniques and new ideas on things that you can do to improve the way that you fish. Developing a confidence bait will allow you to fish more consistently and fish harder and more efficiently, because you're not spending all your time changing out lures. You gotta be able to focus on things that you know work. And then the last thing is catching fish by fishing in water that is productive. So knowing where the fish are, finding the fish, and all that happens through all of your previous experiences, and all the previous 4 tools will help you identify where the fish are and catch more fish. I guarantee it. So incorporate these 5 things into your fishing routine and you will get better. Okay, I appreciate you guys. Now, what you can do to help me out is hit the like button, subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content, but for sure, just write a comment, even if it's like, thanks, Pat. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you sharing this. If you have some questions, by all means, ask a question. I'm happy to answer any questions. Really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.